Good evening, my friends. Welcome to the show. I am Lou Mongello. Today is Wednesday, May 30th. I cannot believe June is almost here. If you are watching live, thank you so very much for joining us. If you're watching on the replay, don't forget to be here every Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And if you are watching live, do me a favor, grab a snack, invite a friend, share this out, and invite some of your friends to join us as well. I love seeing so many people in the box super early, familiar names, familiar faces. To the one person that said that you're driving, bad idea. Don't do it. Watch it on the replay later. I do not want to. That is my. I think I've just taken care of my legal obligation. But great to see so many of you guys in here. Stephen Cook already asking me about Solo. I think we'll probably be able to maybe have a very spoiler-free discussion of Solo, as well as some other Star Wars things that are happening in Walt Disney World with some news that are coming out this week. And certainly we will talk about anything that you guys want to chat about as well. Ken, this is actually not an incredible shirt. Let's see if I can do this without messing things up. This is my Hulk shirt. Don't make me hangry. You wouldn't like me when I'm hangry. And that's my secret. I'm always hangry, which is true. I am not hangry, but I'm a little hungry. What I wouldn't give for a bag of taco-flavored Doritos at this point. But it has been a crazy. Lou sounded like Vincent. Wow, I've never heard that I've been sounded like Vincent Price before. Couple things first. I need to apologize for the delay in getting the show out this week. When you do a show that always has guests, sometimes you are beholden to holidays and schedules and technical difficulties and things like that. But this week, my guest was very much worth waiting for. I love think Ashley Eckstein. I have known her for more than 10 years. She is really one of the nicest, sweetest, smartest, most giving people that I know. And it was just a thrill to have her on this week, talking about her story, her journey, her universe. See what I did there? Star Wars, Ahsoka Tano, and she has a new book that just came out called It's Your Universe. And I really wanted to have her on because I read the book and I wanted to make people understand that this book, while it might seem that because it's her universe and because she plays a young character on Star Wars, that it's primarily meant for young girls. And I don't think so. I think there's a lot of great lessons to take away from her stories, both from a personal level and even from a professional level, as somebody who likes to take inspiration from stories and characters like Star Wars and like Disney and like Marvel. So go and check it out. It is this week's episode 523. More importantly, if you like it, please share it. I appreciate it. Ashley would appreciate. I'm going to speak for her. I don't care. Ashley would appreciate it. So please go ahead and do it. Okay, so Rita says my girls love her clothing line. I love her clothing. I mean, not that I wear it, but I would wear it. I'm not some of this stuff because one of the things we talked about is it allows not just guys but girls and young girls and older girls to embrace their nerdy geekdom, and that's one of the things I love about it. So I'm seeing a lot of people asking me about my thoughts on Solo. We can certainly chat about it. I married to my favorite baseball player from the World Series winning Angels, says Scott Otis. Ricky DJ Technoid Reed, man, every time I see you, it's always a good day. And hello to new neighbor Maria Raboli. Spoiler alert. I'm quickly looking at some of your comments about Solo. Any conversation that we have about it tonight needs to be spoiler free. That being said, I will share my quick thoughts, and if you guys want to call in, I will take your calls. However you want to chat about it. So look, let me back up a little bit, right? And you can't, some of the stuff is blocked up there so you can't see it. Look, in 1977, I was 9 years old, and I've told this story before, but it's true. I remember going to Middlesex Mall with my dad to see Star Wars the very first time. We sat right like close to the front, all the way on the left-hand side, and when I saw that Star Destroyer come overhead on that screen, we looked at each other and were like, this, like it was a moment, like everything changed after that. I was a huge fan. We may or may not have even had like a bootleg copy of Star Wars and Empire right after Empire came out, because some dude at Crazy Eddie's was selling it. And if you're from the Northeast, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I watched it with my friends over and over and over again. I wanted to be, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I had all the toys. I still have my original 12 action figures in that closet, in their original packaging. It's called Kids College Tuition that I'm saving for. I love the original trilogy. When they announced that Episode 1 was coming out in '99, I went to Toys R Us at midnight. I bought sometimes 2 copies of all of the toys and collectibles. And when it came out, I wanted more than anything else to love that movie. And I convinced myself at the beginning that I did. And then the more that I watched it, the more I was like, I'm not sure I really love this the same way. In time, I did not dig Episode 2 and 3, and I realized, well, maybe I'm just sort of getting out of that phase. But my heart and my head still remained and still remain with that original trilogy. In the films that followed, I continued to try and ramp up my excitement for it, and sometimes I was a little bit let down. Sometimes I just had a good, fun time at the movies. When I first heard about Solo, I, like every other, kid of my age, was super excited because we loved that character growing up. In time, we start to hear about production problems, directorial problems, casting problems, acting problems. I won't say who, but, one of the actors literally had an acting coach with him on set every day. That's not necessarily a great indicator. So I went in with low expectations when I saw it. And like when I was in 1999, I went into it wanting to love it. And unfortunately, I didn't. I did not love Solo as much as I wanted to. I thought it lacked some of the things that made the original Star Wars so very special to me. I didn't feel like I was emotionally invested in any of the characters. Again, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody who hasn't seen it, so I don't want to go into any specifics. But I left disappointed. As a fan, I was disappointed, right? Because I wanted to love it more. I looked for things to love. There are certain scenes that I thought were wonderful, and there were certain aspects that I thought weren't. So I blame me. I don't blame the film, because I just think that I sort of live in, Episode 4 and 5 and a little bit of 6. The animated series I watched for a while, but it did not have the same emotional impact, except for Ahsoka Tano, that the original trilogy did. Some people are saying, so Steven says, I really enjoyed Solo as a movie. Not really sure it felt like a Star Wars movie. Steven, I think that's a great way to put it. It lacked some of the things that made Star Wars Star Wars. I did not, on a 1 to 10 scale, I did not give it a very high rating. I don't want to tell you what it is, because I don't want to necessarily taint anybody, because I know that some people have seen it, loved it, and wanted to go see it again. I probably almost, other than possibly going with a group to see it on the cruise at night, I probably won't see Solo again in the theaters, and I probably won't buy it at home. And it's sad for me. I have my little Han Solo 1977 blaster up there that was my original toy from 40, however many years ago. But it didn't get me in. It didn't get me in all of the feels. Rita says it made me wonder what the movie would have been like with the other directors. I said the exact same thing, because look, and I'm sure you've seen online the box office receipts. They are what they are, and the film is not doing nearly as well as projected. There are a lot of people that rank this, in the bottom 2 or 3 of all the Star Wars films. That being said, considering when Ron Howard came in and all the reshoots, I hope that the 8K Ultra HD Blu-ray high definition super duper ultra director's cut box set I want to see the version that they had to reshoot. I want to see that original version that they brought over to Disney and Lucasfilm and said, "Here's our movie," and they're like, "Yikes!" They didn't even reshoot Leprechaun 2. Like, they put Leprechaun 2 out, no problem. They felt they had to reshoot Solo, which again I think speaks volumes about wanting to maintain the integrity of the characters and the stories. But I do, because that first version was supposed to be a comedy. Like, they were filming it like a straight out comedy, and I guess it clearly did not resonate. Is it safe to watch your 8 and 10-year-old? Michael, everybody parents differently. I took my son, he's 12. I didn't think that there was anything inappropriate there. Now, if you're asking me about Deadpool 2, very different story in terms of violence and language and things like that. But I didn't feel that there was anything in Solo that would necessarily be inappropriate. I think if they've seen any of the other Star Wars movies, they're fine. Maria Raboli says, I could feel the many hands that directed the movie, and I think sometimes made things rushed. I still enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I have very, very low expectations. And Maria, I think that's possibly part of the reason why people are happy or satisfied with the movie, is because so many of us did go in expecting so very little. So anything beyond the OMG, it's a dumpster fire, was like, whew, I got a good movie. Again, there were parts that I liked. There were parts, and we talked about this what I saw the other night, that very much felt forced, and that is not meant to be an intentional pun. They were overly deliberate, and it almost felt... There were sections of it that I felt were like a fan film, and a fan film that was trying to deliver those moments, but trying too hard. You were trying too hard to impress the girl, and it came through. But, you know, what do I know? So, give me an Obi-Wan movie, and then we'll see. So, Joanne says, I think Gone with the Wind had 4 directors. It's regarded as a masterpiece. It can work. Joanne, I agree. I'm not saying that it can't work. I just don't think it did in this case. I'm not sure that it did here. But look, you know, the other thing too is, and I will admit this, sometimes as fans of actors, characters, brands, whatever it might be, sometimes we want to love things so much that we convince ourselves that we do. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I do it myself too. As a Star Wars fan, you want to love Solo because this is the movie, this is the backstory you were waiting for since you first met Han in the cantina in 1977. How did he get there? How did he meet Chewie? How did he meet Lando? How did he get the Falcon? It answers all those questions, but not in the same way that that those first movies were able to deliver that kind of storyline. Look, as a Spider-Man fan, I wanted to love, and I convinced myself that I did love, not just Spider-Man, but Amazing Spider-Man. Certainly not Amazing Spider-Man 2. Don't even get me started. It was an abomination. But I probably convinced myself that I loved Spider-Man Homecoming more than the average fan because I wanted to love it, and I still do love it so much. And I love Tom Holland, and I love Kevin Feige. So I think that very much holds true. And so, and I'll look, if you guys want, I'll take some of your calls. Again, I'm not going to, Sean, I'm reading your comments. Certainly there there was a payoff, at the end of the film, but I didn't like having to wait until the end of the film for that moment. It was almost like an end credit scene, and that it sort of felt tacked on to the end. And I think it maybe it was because I think there were things that were lacking. I think this is not a spoiler. I think a villain was lacking in this film for me. I was not on the emotional highs and lows that I wanted to be, like I do in some other films. So, Maria, we don't talk about, you're right. We don't talk about the other Spider-Man movies because there is only one, and Tom Holland is my Spider-Man. Look, I think Tobey Maguire was I think he was a good Peter Parker. I think he was a bad Spider-Man. I think that the opposite is true in Amazing Spider-Man. I think that he was a good Spider-Man, and I think he was an awful Peter Parker. Peter Parker wouldn't have been so... he wouldn't have stood up to Flash Thompson. He wouldn't have been riding his skateboard and talking back at the principal. That's not who Peter Parker is. And unfortunately, I think he was also the victim of some bad writing, a very, very bad villain in 2, where Tom Holland is like they pulled a modern-day version of 1962 Peter Parker right out of the pages of Amazing Fantasy. And that's why it works for me in the way that it does. And if you've seen Civil War, and if you've seen Infinity War, I think that he continues to pay off that in spades. I just give Tom Holland his best supporting actor for the final third of Infinity War right now. That's how good I thought he was. So, it's like getting other actors to play the Marx Brothers. It just doesn't work. Look, it's when you have an iconic character like Han Solo and like Lando Calrissian, trying to portray them as their younger selves is a daunting task for any actor of any talent level. Because how much can and should you inject of your interpretation of the character versus making sure the integrity of that character continues retroactively to that character's origin story. And I think, unfortunately, the actor who portrayed Han, and maybe it was the way he was directed, there are a couple scenes there's a scene where he leans, and it's so intentional. You're like, I get it. And it didn't, I don't think it had to be. I don't think it necessarily had to be. So, Topher Grace should have been cast in Spider-Man in the Raimi films. I'm not even sure look, Tom Holland may be the perfect actor for this role. There was a lot of casting choices. The only casting, I should take that back. The best casting choice in the original Spider-Man films was J. Jonah Jameson, because, and I remember when I first saw him, in Oz. Oz was a TV show on HBO ages ago, where it was about these male inmates in prison. And the guy who played J. Jonah Jameson was, and I not fell in love with him, but as an actor fell in love with him. And he was J. Jonah Jameson, even Robbie Robertson, sort of coming off in a very small supporting role. I think those are the best. And I almost wish that he wouldn't have gone over to, and I'm talking about J.K. Simmons. I wish J.K. Simmons wouldn't have gone over to the dark side, the DC universe, because I don't think that gives him the opportunity to come back on a on the Marvel side. So, so Dave Coviello says, "Look, for those who saw Solo, did you have fun? Did you have fun for a couple hours? I did. That's all I could really ask." And Dave, I think that's what it is. I think it's a movie that you can enjoy for a couple of hours, to stand on its own. I don't think it's it's not Empire, it's not Godfather 2. I don't think it's Leprechaun 2, but you're right. If you can go to the movies and have some escapism for 2 hours, then that's all you can ask for. And look, I see people in there. Solo was great. I really enjoyed it, and that's what makes the world go round. There are some people who are going to love. Look, there are some people I know who didn't like Infinity War. I don't talk to them anymore because I think they're Looney Tunes. But not everybody's going to love everything, and that's fine. I wish it would have received. I wish it would have been better received from a general perspective, because I love that franchise. I grew up on that franchise. It very much impacted me as a kid and even me as an adult. But Alyssa says, I enjoyed Solo. I'm really looking forward to seeing it again on the cruise, and I'm sure we will. For those of you who are coming to Alaska, first of all, it's like 2 weeks away. Awesome, and yikes. There's going to be a lot of late night movie lights for Infinity War. We'll see Solo, and we'll see Incredibles 2. So maybe pajama night at the movies. So, Brian, yeah, I don't think that you need to skip one for the other. Yeah, some people are just saying it was okay. Martin Shergold says, I can't wait to see Solo. He's saying this in a British accent, by the way. I can't wait to see Solo. Just keep me Star Wars geekiness happy. And I think that's what it is. You know, if you're a Star Wars geek, you're going to like Solo. If you're not, if you're maybe like me, who started to sort of pull away from the franchise for whatever reason, you may not like it as much. But you know what? It is a film that you can go to with your husband or wife or kids or friends and just escape and have fun and popcorn for a couple of hours. So Chris says, Solo wasn't a great Star Wars movie, but I still think it's better than 90% of the rest of the movies that come to theaters. I'm not sure what's that a more of a commentary on. So as long as you don't get a standalone Jar Jar story, I don't think that's going to happen. Jim, I agree with you. I am super excited for Christopher Robin. Look, having Obi-Wan Kenobi in Christopher Robin is a perfect marriage for me. I love Winnie the Pooh. I don't, you guys can't see him, but I have my, a little Winnie the Pooh down there. I love that character as a child. I will say this. I'm more excited for Christopher Robin than I am for Mary Poppins 2. There's only one Mary Poppins, man, but I'm pretty sure she doesn't dress like... Look, Julie Andrews will always be my Mary Poppins. I'm cautiously concerned about Mary Poppins 2 because I love the original. The original means so much to me as a kid and as an adult for so many reasons. So... Michael says, I think the reception to Solo would have been better if there was a December release. Too much too soon, especially after, in my opinion, The Last Jedi Backlash. It did feel like they're pushing these out pretty quickly, and I don't know why. Is there a long and short-term strategy in terms of a timetable that they're trying to meet? If so, why? Is it potentially connected to the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland and in Disney World? I don't know. I don't know. So we're going to hang on one second. Whoops. I'm trying to get rid of you and not. I'll have to figure that out how to do it from here. I thought Mary Poppins was part of the MCU. Wasn't she Infinity War? No, she was in Guardians 2, but she didn't quite make it into Infinity War. But who knows with the Time Stone what may be possible. So, but let me still have to do this from here. Sorry, I can't do it from my. So Mark Lorenzo, hey buddy, he says they mentioned Black Spire Outpost in Solo. Obviously, if you have not seen or heard the announcement as yet, the name of the village in Galaxy's Edge is going to be called Black Spire Outpost. There's an entire backstory in terms of those spires, why this central spire becomes so important. Here is sort of a ground level look at what is going to be a huge land, both here in Walt Disney World and out in Disneyland. The other thing that we found out today, I believe, was, I didn't mean to do that, was the location of the Star Wars themed resort in Walt Disney World. And let me see if I can do this like this. So this is a map of Disney's Hollywood Studios. Whoops. So you can see, here's Hollywood Studios, here's Star Tours, the adventures continue. Here is a lot of the construction that's going on. Here's World Drive right here. This is Osceola Parkway, and it's right in this area where the Star Wars themed resort, this doesn't look right here. Sorry. Where you see my mouse is not where I'm seeing it on screen. Here is where the resort is going to be, sort of in catty-cornered in here between Osceola and World Drive. And the reason why, and this is what I think we expected it to be is because it is going to be connected to, oh, come on, Mongello. Hang on here. There you go. It is going to be directly connected to Galaxy's Edge, which means that if you're staying at the resort, there's, look, they talked about this, and I think this confirms what our suspicions and expectations were, is this immersive experience is not going to just take place inside the resort, but it's very much going to be connected literally and figuratively to the experiences that you have inside Galaxy's Edge. So things that you do, I think, in Galaxy's Edge, interactions and experiences that you have will sort of breadcrumb back with you to the experiences that you have at your resort if you're staying there, and vice versa. I think these worlds are going to be connected, whether it's via Magic Band, whether it's via some other type of technology, but your Star Wars experience is not going to be limited or dictated by the confines and the four corners and the boundaries of your resort and Galaxy's Edge. They're very much going to merge and meld into one. And this, you know, whether you're a Star Wars fan or not, I think this is a game changer in the resort entertainment space, because nobody else has done this before. Nobody else has combined the experiences inside a theme park with what happens in a themed resort. Grand Californian is, for all intents and purposes, in California Adventure, but they are two very separate and distinct properties. Here, what happens in one, if you are a guest staying in the resort, is very much going to impact that. This is what I think is very much going to impact the other. And I think that we are going to see the implementation and utilization of technology in the park that we haven't seen as yet, that is specifically going to be used for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and the as yet unnamed hotel. So I think there is a reason why we are seeing things happening the way they are. There's a couple of things that I have heard that I don't want to share yet because they are just rumor and speculation. But if some of the murmurs that I'm hearing are going to come true, this is going to deliver there's certain words I don't want to use because I don't want to potentially give anything away. I think the experiences that we're going to have in Galaxy's Edge and potentially and or in the hotel are not going to be limited to what we see in front of us in three dimensions. I think that this is going to be a very important part of your experience in terms of virtual and, more importantly, augmented reality. I think that technologies that we have seen teased in Star Wars films in the past is going to come to reality in the parks. Things that 9-year-old Lou Mongello dreamed he could do in real life and pretended that he used to do with tubes from wrapping paper and little pieces of plastic pipe and things like that are finally going to come to guests, I think, in both. Even what you see out your window is going to be enhanced and augmented in ways that we haven't seen before. I think you're going to see it here. I think you're going to see it at the hotel. I think you're going to see it in Epcot, not just in the Guardians attraction, but over at the Mission Space themed restaurant. I think there are some new technologies that are going to be, and I think you're going to see it in transportation system as well. So I would not be surprised if what you see out your windows is not augmented and enhanced in ways that we've only seen in science fiction films. And you want to talk about layering your experience and layers of the onion, and there now not being much of quote-unquote downtime. It used to be you went from attraction to attraction, and that's where your experiences were. They were confined to not even the queues, but really the attractions themselves, we're seeing that expand out now, right? The attractions begin not just in the queues, but outside the buildings themselves. They are bleeding out into the lands and throughout the resorts. But then when you leave, you're in your car, you're on the monorail, and it's over. I think that line is very much going to be blurred between things like what's transportation and what's an attraction. I think the gondolas with zero technology blur that line. I think other modes of transportation will blur it further thanks to the use of technology. And as much as we might complain that we're on this too much and our kids are focused away too much, I think this little black magic box and what we are able to do through the app right now is going to be nothing compared to what that is going to do and how it's going to change radically our experiences in the parks and resorts within the next 18 months. And that might be a little aggressive, but that's just the feeling that I have. Frank Fiorinelli, I want a Tron hotel. Frank, man, you're speaking my language, brother. I would love a Tron-themed hotel. I think when we didn't get Tron 3, I think the idea of a Tron hotel probably died along with it. But who knows, domestically, when the Tron attraction comes to Magic Kingdom, how that might reinvigorate a franchise that has been starting to kind of die on the vine for some time. So, Peggy Teal, nice to see you as well. Marcus Skybucket, yes, the towers for the Skyways are going up like crazy. You want to talk literally about your views and landscape of Walt Disney World changing? It's going to be more impactful, and I don't think in a bad way. I think it's going to be neat to see some of those things going over, looking for the different themed ones, looking for specialty theme. Will they wrap them for Christmas? Will they wrap them for new movies like they did with the monorails and the buses? Thoughts on the Void as a test bed for attractions? I don't think. Look, obviously, that technology is what is used out in Imagineering on a much, much grander scale. They sort of got their dome room where they test ride-throughs like that. I don't think, from a guest perspective, from a consumer perspective, we are going to see that. They will not sort of sneak peek stuff like that for us. But for Disney, virtual reality in Imagineering is very, very much utilized. And for those of you who might be coming with me this October, wow, it's almost October already, this October on our Southern California Adventures by Disney Backstage Magic, we're going to get to go to Imagineering. And you never know what you might see when you're there. No pictures, but I saw the model of New Fantasyland long before it was revealed because I had gone on that Adventures by Disney before. So I'm curious to see what happens. Kevin Shea he's inside Hasbro Toys. Listen, clearly, Kevin, I am a man who loves my toys. So I envy you and your job. Scott Otis, I don't think a Meet the Robinsons resort is probably but you can theme your home to Meet the Robinsons because I kind of envision that's what dinner looks like over there. Beatrice, I didn't think of that for the October ABD trip. Oh, just wait. So there's a lot more than is sometimes advertised. And if you've ever come with us on cruises and trips before, you know that that's it. By the way, speaking of cruises, 2 weeks till Alaska, 2 weeks and a couple of days. If you're not coming with us, I am sad and I wish you were, but I promise I will share with you as much as possible as I can, when I can, from the cruise. So make sure you turn on notifications. Just a quick reminder too, if I can do this without my glasses, speaking of amazing trips, we still have a few. I think we are now down to 8 spots left for our Adventures by Disney to Japan. This is a private WDW Radio group that is going out October 13th through the 23rd, 2019. I would love for you to join us. It's 11 days, 10 nights with the option to add on Shanghai at the beginning and Tokyo Disneyland and Disney Sea at the end. If you are at all curious, I suggest you go to www.radio.com/Japan19. Find out more, get any questions answered that you might have. I will tell you from a personal perspective, this is my dream trip. This is the one that I have waited like my whole life to take, and I would love for you to come with us. Andrew Tan, I have watched The Toys That Made Us. I've watched season 1. I started watching part of season 2, but it was like 3 o'clock in the morning the other night when I was going to sleep. I fell asleep very quickly. I can't do what I used to do anymore at this age. But I love The Toys That Made Us. It is a great series. You should definitely check it out if you have Netflix. There was also one that was on. That was the Robert Kirkman comic book series I loved, which was on TV. So, but let me catch up here on this. And if anybody wants to call in and share your thoughts on Solo, Galaxy's Edge, Star Wars, Galactic Nights, anybody who's at Galactic Nights, I was there with my son. We met up with Maria Riboli, had a great time the other night. I would love for you to feel free to call in. I'll pull up the thing so you guys can dial in if you want. Do you think you'll be able to get to the other parks from the Star Wars Hotel or just transportation to Galaxy's Edge? You know, I don't know how restrictive, and I can't imagine that it's going to be. If you need to leave, you leave. I think what they want it to be is like a ship. When you're in the hotel and the doors close, your voyage begins. They want you to stay there, and I think for what you're going to spend, you're probably going to want to stay there too. But certainly, if you want to or need to go to other resorts, I don't think that'll be an issue. I don't think that they're going to make you sort of go through Galaxy's Edge in terms of getting out. Katie, I have not talked about the event in September yet, and it's not my fault. It's all Becky's fault, and I can say it because she's not here. I do want you to save the date, Friday, September 21st through Sunday, September 23rd. Something is coming, but Becky is too busy cruising the high seas, not on Disney Cruise Line, to talk about it. But Maria says, it was lovely, and you put me to shame with your score on Toy Story. You need a rematch. Listen, you swore that, I think you said you were undefeated, world lightweight champion, whatever it might be, and I just got lucky. That night. So rematch it is. Loser buys. I can't even say loser buys Morimoto, because if she loses, I can't make her pay for that much food, because it just wouldn't be fair. So, John Oliva says Japan is great. It's a personal favorite trip I've ever taken. John, I'm with you, man. I've been waiting to take this trip. I think there's no better way to do it than via Adventures by Disney. Reggie Phillips, nice to see you as well. Is September going to be a group trip or an event you can attend and participate from the box? How much can and should I say at this point? I will tell you this. It is not a group trip. It is a group event, but the amount of participation that can happen from the box is going to be limited based on what this event is. This is very much an in-person, boots-on-the-ground, see-it-with your own eyes events. Plural? Plural. And that's the most that I can tell you. Brittany checked out the itinerary, not in the budget. Listen, I understand it's not the cheapest trip in the world. It's very much worth it, but going to Japan and hitting all those locations, and again, you're talking about 11 days, 10 nights, the type of experiences that we're going to have and the resorts that Disney picks are in keeping with the Disney brand. So I feel bad because I know that it's an expensive trip and not within everybody's budget, but I didn't want to save $2,000 and have a subpar experience that's not in keeping with our levels of expectation of what we get like when we come to Disney. And that's really where the decision on the balance was made. So, but you know I will share as much as I can, except for my food, while I am there. So, do I need to change my trip to start on the 23rd? Well, it's from Friday to Sunday, so there may or may not be multiple things that are happening that weekend. Just saying. Let's see. Marissa says, the void in Star Wars is the single greatest Star Wars thing I've ever done. If Galaxy's Edge managed to do anything remotely close to that, wow, I think you're going to have your socks knocked off in Galaxy's Edge. From some folks that I've spoken to, from the concept art that we've seen, from a few other details that I have heard that I'm not at liberty to share, this is exactly what you wanted it to be the first time you saw Star Wars and you wanted to step into that world. That's the kind of experience that I think that they are going to deliver. So, Cindy Moats would love to come to Japan, just comes at a rough time to get signed up. So, do I need to book a resort room now for the September weekend? You don't need to book it yet. We may or may not have some. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. New podcast episode this week. Yes, Carmine, it actually went up just a couple of hours ago. My interview with the lovely and talented and oh so wonderful Ashley Eckstein. I apologize. Little delay in getting it out. And then last week, there were just some scheduling difficulties, not necessarily with Ashley, but just getting, on my side, getting things done with another show I was trying to get done first, and then the Memorial Day weekend and all that kind of stuff. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And if you do, please, 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 please share it out. Facebook, Twitter, wherever it is that you're comfortable, wherever you think, friends might want to come and take a listen and hopefully join our Box People family. By the way, if you have not joined the community over at www.radio.com/boxpeople or www.radio.com/, it'll take you to the same place. It is our Facebook group. Again, really where I want the community and conversation to take place. Whether you participate, whether you start your own discussions, I would love for you to come over, grab a snack, and introduce yourself and become part of our family there. And a huge, huge thanks to all of you who are not just members of the Box People group, but who are members of the WDW Radio Nation family. I sincerely, sincerely appreciate you and all the help that you give to helping to keep the lights on here on the show. So to find out more, you can visit www.radionation.com. So, Brian, I have not gone to a dinner with Bob Gurr for a Gurtini specialty drink, although we were at Top of the World, and he and I were when we were in Seattle. So Bob was a wonderful guy, and I love that even as he's getting older, he's still so incredibly active in and with the community and making himself available to fan events and things like that. So, Jimmy Kenny, digging the Spider-Man chair. I love this chair. It was actually a gift. I have to give credit where it's due. It was a surprise gift from Becky Menken from MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. So, it was a wonderful surprise that I got a few weeks ago. And, it's a wonderful addition to my growing Spider-Man collection. That's what I was saying before. I've definitely sort of, I was a Star Wars fan as a kid. I was a Spider-Man fan too, but I think my Star Wars fandom eclipsed my Spider-Man, and things have really turned around over the last number of years. And you can certainly see, all those Funko Pops, save for a few, are all Spider-Man. I just actually bought a new piece of Spider-Man artwork right down there. The quote says, of course, with great power comes great responsibility. So, the chair is comfortable, Darlene. It's super comfortable, and it's got all kind, and I can it actually lays all the way back because it's like a gaming chair. Although I don't know why I would want to lay all the way back, but Ricky, you're right, man. I am back to my spider roots, and now there's a lot of reasons why part of it is a sense of nostalgia. Part of it's obviously the new films. But it's funny, last week actually I had, let's see if I can find it. So I had a couple of, let me see. So I just had like a couple of my old comic books, right, from like when I was a kid. Look, still only 35 cents. I was going through these and I was quietly reminiscing. It was like 1:30 in the morning. I'm literally sitting on the floor of my office going through those and looking through those comic books, and there's something about that tactile feel of the comics. There's something about the smell that they have. There's something about those ads from when I was a kid. So let me get one of the older ones I have. Let's see. So let me see if this is one of them that has some of the really old ads that I remembered as a kid. I remember looking through and sending away for some of the things that were in here. So obviously I sent away for the Muscles in 7 Days. That never came in. That one never came in for me. I did get the Sea Monkeys. What else? Yeah, these all of these sort of bring back memories of sitting there as a kid and going through. By the way, the X-ray specs don't work. Don't work. I tried them again last week. No, I tried them as a kid and they don't work. I think my Joy Buzzer did, but yeah, Paul Clark. The ads were great, like the X-ray glasses. Gosh, where's the one that I was looking at? I think this is the one. Like, I literally remember so many of the specific ads from when, like, these are some of my favorite pages in the comic books. All these cool things that you could order when you were a kid. And 25 cents, 35 cents, 100 toy soldiers for $1.75. I remember reading all of Stan Lee's, I am not sure if this is letting me resume the broadcast. Technically not even sure if I'm live at this point. Wah, 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 wah. Trying to see if I can resume this broadcast. I don't think it's happening. Jim says I am live. I don't know. I can't see anything from my end in terms of if I am live or not, so I'm going to take Jim's word that I am back. I'm trying to see. It looks like I am, but I am. I am not sure if this is working or not. I'm not sure if you guys can see me or not. Yeah, it looks like I'm having technical issues on my end. I should have gone to the boathouse. Yeah, if you guys can hear me, something is definitely rotten in the state of Facebook. I am going to cancel this out. If you can see, I apologize. I appreciate you. I love you. It's a hot mess. Good night. Have a good weekend. If I can come back on, I will. See ya.